Team USA's Alysa Liu shines in the opening night of women's figure skating and lands in the top 3, but a heartbreaking start for Amber Glenn. NPR's Rachel Treisman was there.
She knew the second she got off the ice. I think it might have taken us in the room a little bit of a beat to understand what went wrong because the rest of it looked so good, but she got her score, she had her head in her hands, and I think she was as jarred as anybody.
New Olympic sport alert. We're talking about Skimo, the freshest and possibly the most grueling event at the 2026 Winter Games. NPR's Brian Mann breaks it down.
It's an alpine race with a twist, and here's what's going to be really exciting to watch for. Because they have to ski fast uphill, almost like cross country, the gear is a lot lighter. And as they're coming down through the gates, skiing really technical terrain, it takes a huge amount of skill and balance, especially given that they're already exhausted.
And Miracle, Cool Runnings, Blades of Glory. Which Olympic movie gets it right and takes home the gold? We'll discuss. I'm A Martínez, and this is Up First Winter Games. It's Wednesday, February 18th, and here's what you need to know. Big news in the women's slalom for Mikaela Shiffrin. It came down to her last run in these Olympics, and she saved her best for last. NPR's Brian Mann was there.
This gold medal moment was pure redemption for Mikaela Shiffrin. She skied a first run, confidently building nearly a second lead, came into the second run, and she could have played it safe. She could have been conservative. Instead, she attacked the line even more aggressively and built on her lead. She won this gold medal by more than a second, about 1.5. That's a lot of time in a slalom race like this against big competition. She shatters now a losing streak in Olympic events that dated back to the Beijing Games, 8 events where she couldn't reach the podium. Here, she absolutely reversed that history, capturing another gold, really cementing her identity as the most legendary alpine skier in history.
A dramatic finish Tuesday in men's big air freestyle skiing final. It came down to the last 2 jumps. Team USA's Mac Forehand surged into the lead on the second to last run of the night with a massive score of 98, putting the gold within reach. But Norway's Tormod Frostad answered on the final jump of the night nearly perfect to reclaim the top spot and take home the gold. Forehand walks away with silver and his first Olympic medal of his career. The Olympics went a little off-leash in cross-country skiing during a qualifying race. A local dog named Nazgul broke free from a nearby bed and breakfast, sprinted onto the course, and made a very unsanctioned run for Olympic glory. Stunned skiers try to keep racing. Officials quickly corralled the 4-legged intruder, and no results were affected. Another shocking night for U.S. figure skaters, this time the women. Amber Glenn, Isabeau, Levito, and Alysa Liu came into Tuesday's short program as podium favorites, but only 2 of them finished the night in the top 10. Now, it wasn't a medal event, but their scores will help decide who takes home a medal heading into the final day of competition on Thursday. NPR's Rachel Treisman was at the rink last night, as she is most of her nights in Milan. Rachel, hello.
Hi.
So tell us about Alysa Liu.
So Alysa Liu, this is actually her second Olympics, but a lot has changed for her since her first. So a little bit of background. She burst onto the scene as a teenager. She was the youngest woman to win U.S. nationals at 13. She went to Beijing. Right after Beijing, she was 16. She retired from the sport altogether, sort of burnt out from the pressure, the intensity of competition. She fell out of love with the sport. But then she found her way back into it. She came back, and last year she won the World Championships. And so she's back now with this totally different approach. You may recognize her from her striped hair, from her lip piercing, and also just the very joyful air she has about her whenever she takes the ice. She's talked about seeing this as an opportunity to showcase her creativity rather than win a competition and just go out there and have fun. And I've seen that every time I watch her skate, but especially last night. She went out there with a smile on her face. She did a beautiful program. She seemed really pleased with it. The crowd loved it. I saw Snoop Dogg loved it. She walked off and kind of brushed her hands, dusted off her hands. She knew she did a good job. And afterwards, she told reporters that she wished she could have been up there even longer. So the short program was too short for Alysa Liu. She finished in second place, and then by the end of the night, she'd been bumped down to third, which is really amazing and rare for a U.S. woman in this sport. But the thing that's ironic is that she told reporters also she really doesn't care about a medal. She's just excited to show what she can do and have a good time out there.
Doesn't care about a medal. I mean, she's basically U.S. last shot, right? Because Amber Glenn finished in 13th place. So, I mean, Alysa Liu is all that's left.
Anything can happen, but yeah, certainly going into Thursday, it is looking like she has the strongest shot. And that's really surprising because Amber Glenn was, like you said, really heavily favored for the podium too. And just a little bit of backstory on her. She made her first Olympics. She's 26. She's worked so hard to get here. She's been very open about her struggles with mental health and sort of the winding path that her career has taken. She didn't win an international competition until she was 24, and now she's the 3-time reigning U.S. champion. She did something really amazing that very few women have done at this Olympics or any Olympics, which is a triple axel. That was the first move of her program, and she landed it. She got the hard part out of the way. I think she literally said that later. The rest of the program was looking really, really good until the final jump of the night, and that was supposed to be a triple loop, which is required, and she sort of bailed out of it midway in the air and landed it as a double. So she still landed it, but it wasn't the required number of rotations, and she got docked. She lost all of the points for that entire jump because of the way that the short program is scored. She walked off crying. I found out later that on the hot mic she was heard saying, "I had it." She got her score. She had her head in her hands. She was in 12th place by the end of the night. She'd been bumped down to 13th. Just really unexpected, and I think she was as jarred as anybody.
Yeah. Did she say anything afterwards?
She didn't really talk to the press. She spoke briefly to NBC and said that she lost focus. She wasn't feeling great. And she did talk about, this is something that I think all of the U.S. women have been really open about. She didn't have as much fun as she wanted to, and she's hoping to find a little bit more of that joy in the free skate on Thursday.
So I was about to ask you about that because competition continues with that free skate. What should we be looking out for?
So there's one more American to watch in addition to the two we've talked about so far, and that's Isabeau Levito. She finished the night in 8th place, and she had a great, very fun, very classy routine. So the three of them will be back at it. Again, they all qualified for Thursday.
And just to be clear, that rounds out the Blade Angels, right?
That rounds out the Blade Angels, which we should say is a name they technically gave themselves, though it's been kind of everywhere. But I think it's notable that they have been sort of branded as a team trio because it speaks to the way that they have presented themselves but also been there for each other. They really do seem like they are strong friends off the ice. They're not just rivals. And one little tidbit that I hope I can share is that last night all of the journalists were waiting downstairs to talk to all of them after their respective skates. And both Lou and Levito sort of disappeared from the press area after Glenn's skate. And so can't say for sure, but the thinking was that they sort of ran out to be there for her. And that would be consistent with what we've seen from them so far.
Okay, now what about the rest of the field?
Okay, so as with all of the other figure skating events, the Japanese skaters are definitely ones to watch. 3 of them finished in the top 5, 2 at the very top of the ranking going into the podium event. And that's Kaori Sakamoto and Ami Nakai. And they're both delightful to watch. Sakamoto was at the end of the night. She is retiring after these Olympics, and her short program song is "It's Time to Say Goodbye." And people were just absolutely losing it. And Nakai is just 17, and she sort of held on to her spot at the top of the leaderboard very early in the night. Also really fun to watch. And Mone Chiba is also one of the contenders from Japan. And then rounding out that top 5 from the first half of competition is sort of a wild card, Adelia Petrosin. She's Russian, competing as a neutral athlete. We haven't really seen much from her until last night. She did a Michael Jackson medley routine. She was wearing the red jacket, gloves, pants. She went very early in the night and was in first place for most of it. So we'll see what she does on Thursday, but she's definitely someone to know. I do just want to say, though, if you haven't figured this out by now, literally anything can happen in figure skating. We're only halfway through the women's event, so only time will tell.
And that's what makes sports great. That's NPR's Rachel Treisman. Rachel, thanks.
Thank you.
Support for Up First Winter Games comes from NPR sponsor Allianz Travel Insurance. Get ready to give ordinary the cold shoulder with protection for adventures that give you the best kind of chills. Learn more at AllianzTravelInsurance.com.
Ski mountaineering, better known as Skimo, is making its debut at these Winter Olympics. NPR's Brian Mann is up in the Alps. He's here to tell us what it is and what to watch for. Brian, so you've actually done this. You've skied in mountains for years. What's the best way to describe this sport?
Well, yeah, this is like a lot of winter sports. It's an event that evolved out of a way that people have just traveled in the mountains for centuries. And in my home mountains of the Adirondacks in New York, I've skied the mountains. And what you're basically seeing people do is ski up really steep slopes. And then when they get to the top, they pivot and they rocket down. So it's this combination of two very different styles of travel.
So, okay, I got to ask you something. How do you ski up slopes? And why don't they just slide down?
Right. Okay, so what you'll be seeing when you watch this is you'll be seeing these athletes just race right up, and it seems like they're defying gravity. And what's happening is they have what's called skins that are stuck to the bottoms of their skis, and they have their synthetic little tabs that go on there. These came from actual animal skins back in ancient times that people used to put on their skis. And so they'll race up using those kind of traction devices, and that's when they'll strip them off and make this pivot for the downhill portion. So a lot of sort of tricky technology that's developed here in the mountains.
And once they get to the top, essentially it's an alpine race back down.
It's an alpine race with a twist. And here's what's going to be really exciting to watch for is that because they have to ski fast uphill, almost like cross country, and at times they actually strip the skis off, right? And they kind of race up in what look almost like hiking boots. The gear is a lot lighter. So when you see alpine skiers like Mikaela Shiffrin coming down, they have monster plastic boots, really fat skis. These folks are going to be on much lighter gear. And as they're coming down through the gates, skiing really technical terrain, it takes a huge amount of skill and balance, especially given that they're already exhausted from racing uphill. So that's what we're going to be watching for, is which of these athletes have the grace and the endurance to do those plummets on that much lighter gear.
The extremes these athletes push themselves to is absolutely amazing. I can't get over watching it over and over again. Tell us about Skimo. I mean, what's the history of this sport? Where does it come from?
It really starts here. We're in the Alps, and what's happened over the decades is that this sport evolved from something that people went up into the backcountry to do. People can turn almost anything into a race, and people started saying, well, how can we compete at this? And so starting in the 80s and then evolving into the 2000s, people started sort of making rules. You'll see when it's on TV that there's actually a very carefully crafted course they'll use, a portion where they're skiing uphill, then almost what looks like a stepping ladder section where they're going to be on their boots, and then they'll be pivoting down into the gate alpine skiing type event. All of that evolved with people just in the woods, up in the mountains right here.
So it's a first time for everyone. These athletes will be doing Skimo for the first time. So that means that also for the viewers watching, they'll be watching this for the first time. So what should we be looking out for?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting moments is going to be the transitions. Think NASCAR pit crews, right, where they're swapping out tires super fast. Well, here, as these athletes go through this exhausting sprint and climb, they have to be peeling their skins off at certain times. Sometimes you're going to see them taking their skis off and stowing them away in their backpacks and racing uphill. Then when they get to the top, they have to clamp their skis down, locking their bindings, right? And all of this manual dexterity, very highly skilled stuff when their hands are shaking, when their lungs are heaving. I mean, these guys and these gals have sprinted uphill, huge difficulty level, and they still have to just master it perfectly. So that's going to be a make or break. The people who lose crucial seconds in those transitions, it could cost them at the finish line.
All right, Brian, so who are the medal favorites here?
I mentioned that this sport kind of grew up here in the Alps, so not surprisingly, the French, the Swiss, they're really the favorites coming into this race. The U.S. is not expected to reach the podium. That said, there are two really exciting U.S. athletes here that I want people to be watching out for. Cam Smith, he's won a bunch of national Skimo championships in the United States. It's going to be really interesting to see what kind of sprint race he can put in individually. He also recruited Anna Gibson, this incredibly powerful runner, track athlete, also Nordic skier, who's come very recently into this sport. Recruited her. She's going to be in the women's sprint competition, but they're also going to be pairing up. And so in the relay, that's going to be one of the most interesting parts of this, a bit more of an endurance component there. They could put together a big race on a big day, and they could be really fun to watch. And so Americans not expected to medal, but they could surprise us.
Still really exciting to watch a brand new sport at the Olympics. That's NPR's Brian Mann. Brian, thanks a lot.
Thanks, A.
It seems every Olympic Games give us the kind of drama Hollywood spends millions trying to manufacture. There are stories of triumph, tragedy, heartbreak, last-second victories, and impossible comebacks. So it's no surprise filmmakers have tried to bottle up that magic for the big screen. Whether it's based on a real-life miracle or a cool take on an unlikely Olympic journey.
So this is it. We could see history in the making.
Feel the rhythm. Feel the ride. Get on up. It's bobsled time. Hooray!
Since it's Olympic season, we thought we'd have a little fun and discuss which movies deserve the gold. So I called in resident film fanatic and all things considered producer Marc Rivers. He produces and often appears on its weekly movie discussion segment. So here now is that conversation. All right, so Marc, how are you liking the Olympics so far?
So I gotta say, the Winter Olympics to me are kind of an odd assortment of athletics. Because on the one hand, you have events whose qualification as a sport I find a little bit dubious. Looking at you curling, sorry.
Curling.
And then on the other hand, you have events that fall more in line to me with what Tom Cruise does in the Mission Impossible movies. Like when I watch downhill ski racing, I think to myself like a mother, like, oh my God, honey, don't do that. It's too dangerous. But you know,
I would jumping too.
Both. I'm terrified of just watching it. But you know, I would say ultimately, you know, it's the stories and the narratives that draw me into the Olympics, no matter what sport it is. You know, if I'll give curling the time of day if there's a good story involved with one of the players.
So like rooting for the character and the person, not necessarily the uniform.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, with a lot of Olympic movies and maybe a lot of sports movies, but Olympic movies, I feel like they can be put into different buckets. So tell me what 3 buckets you have Olympic movies in.
So I think one easy bucket is it's based on a true story. Think of the Chariots of Fire from 1981. Yeah. Everyone knows that famous, running music.
Even done it, right? Yeah.
Everyone's done that. You know, about these 2 English runners in the 1920s, both kind of running for different reasons. One is running for God and country. The other is running to kind of counter anti-Semitism that he's facing. Yeah. You also have something like Miracle, you know, about the famous Miracle on Ice, you know, in the 1980s, right? And then you have more fictional takes. I'm thinking of Blaze of Glory. Right.
Yes, that's where the comedies come in.
That's where the comedy comes in. And, you know, that movie is kind of great contribution to the culture. It's probably the sampling of it for a Jay-Z and Kanye West song. Or something like Cool Runnings. These kind of movies don't really take the Olympics as seriously. I say they kind of like kid the Olympics a little bit. Mm-hmm. Then you have Olympics movies that are more where the Olympics is more in the background or more kind of a jumping off point for the real plot. Yeah. That's something more like Munich, you know, the 2005 Spielberg film. Or Foxcatcher, another really kind of grim movie. Those films are kind of talking about more things than just, are they going to win the gold medal at the end of it, right?
Yeah. We're going to dance to one song and one song only.
Exactly.
Cue the music.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so when do they miss the mark? Like, what do they do to miss the mark for you?
It's when they're kind of caked in that Hollywood syrup.
That's good stuff, man. That's the sugar.
No, it's too much. It's too much. It's giving me diabetes. You know, like I need it to kind of earn its sense of importance. Right?
Nutritious. You need it to be a little more nutritious.
Yeah. You know, so I thought of a film. I thought of this film Race, which about the legendary Olympian Jesse Owens. Yeah. And that title started to kind of tell you about how cringe this movie is.
And they tried a little something with the title.
They tried
to kind of give you a sense of what the movie and the historical thing is about.
This is one of the great stories in Olympics history, right? Jesse Owens, this famous runner who essentially shattered Hitler's illusion of Aryan supremacy in the 1936 Olympics. But you don't get a sense of who Jesse Owens is. And, you know, in this film, Jason Sudeikis plays Jesse Owens' coach, and Jason Sudeikis gets equal screen time to Jesse. He's a co-lead. You know, I know he's playing his coach, but I just felt like it was trying to both tell the story of Jesse and also kind of tell the story of the political maneuvering behind those Olympics. You know, there was questions of whether America should even participate, you know, and by trying to do both stories, it kind of fails at both. That was one movie that didn't totally work.
That did too much.
It did too much, and also it was just too textbook. Not even tech. It was like children's book history almost. It was kind of la-di-da of history, and it didn't convey to me the complexity of that tale.
So I'm starting to understand you a little bit. Narrow your focus. That's what you would tell filmmakers.
I need micro, not macro.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to list a couple of movies that I like, and you can tell me if you agree. So. We're going to start, because it's the Winter Olympics, 2004's Miracle about the 1980 USA hockey team. We're going to start with this clip.
This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
So that's in the locker room right before the United States takes on the Soviet Union. Yeah, in the big game. And they wind up beating them at Lake Placid in 1980.
Don't hate me, A. I have not seen Miracle.
You have not seen Miracle. Wow.
I'm not much of a hockey fan, I should say. And also, my Miracle on Ice was when Team USA beat Iceland in D2 the Mighty Ducks.
That's
my
true
Miracle
story.
on Ice.
That was not an Olympic story.
Sometimes the fiction supplants reality, A. Sometimes.
Yeah. So was that clip too syrupy for you? Was it too much like slathering on? I mean, it actually happened, which I think makes it actually good for me.
That does help. And, I think Kurt Russell, it's a smooth, it's a lighter slathering. I mean, he can really sell the slathering of the syrup.
But so, okay, let me ask you this: are you a hockey fan?
Not a hockey fan.
No. So so when it comes to these kind of movies, did you have to like the sport to actually even give the movie a chance?
I think liking the sport is a good entry point, but if the movie is doing its job well, you don't need to be a hockey fan. You don't need to be a track and field fan. Like, the characters are what grab you. The stakes are what grab you. And I think if that's working, it doesn't really matter what sport it is.
Okay. So what about some of your favorites?
So one of my favorites, I might have already mentioned, Can You Feel the Rhythm? Can You Feel the Rhyme? It is Cool Runnings,
Yeah.
1990s film about loosely inspired by the first Jamaican bobsled team. And this is another sport that I didn't really have any attachment to growing up, and I still don't have any attachment to it. These characters are so colorful, and it's such a quotable film. One of my favorites being this one here.
I see pride. I see power. I see a badass mother who don't take no crap of nobody. You really see all that?
Like, it's just so good.
Wearing the sweater too.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times that I quoted that as a kid. And John Candy plays their coach in this film. And what I like about his performance in this is that he doesn't overstate. He doesn't crowd the rest of them. He knows this is not his story. So that's a really good one. Another one that I thought kind of flew under the radar is from 2024. It's called The Fire Inside. So this is about the female boxer Claressa Shields. She was the first boxer, male or female, to become the undisputed champ in 3 different weight classes. First American to win consecutive gold medals. An amazing story. And what's great about The Fire Inside is it's about the false promises of glory. This movie is all about how winning in the Olympics doesn't necessarily get rid of all the problems you kind of started out with when you went on this road, right? And let's hear a clip about that.
You wasn't in the fight.
I wasn't out there, huh? You know why? Because we broke. Because we broke. I don't make one damn penny being your coach. I'm a volunteer. I do this for free. Matter of fact, I'm losing money and losing shifts to coach your ungrateful ass. You got a gold medal. Well, good for you, little girl, because we got bills around here. And I got all your mouths to feed. Remember that.
You know what? I'm done here.
So yeah, I just found it a more kind of just realistic story about the Olympics that we don't often get. It's not bathed in this glow of victory, but it's kind of it's drenched in the kind of just the hard, cold reality of kind of what it takes to win, and also the disappointments that can come after that.
It's so funny that you mentioned the glory being maybe this false idol, because on this podcast, we talked to Scott Hamilton not that long ago, who talked about that, how his Olympic gold medal, I mean, he gave away every single medal he ever earned because he didn't want them to feel like they were some shiny object that he needed to chase for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and there's a scene in this film where Claressa almost gives away her gold medal. She almost pawns it in a pawn shop because she's trying to help her mom pay the bills. So yeah, I really appreciate movies that are more realistic about those kind of expectations. Sometimes that glow of victory is a fantasy.
Now, there are some movies, though, or some Olympic events, things that have happened in the Olympics that I feel that probably could get the movie treatment. So the 2004 Argentinian Olympic men's basketball team.
This is very you.
So so think about this, because they were the first team to ever beat the Dream Team. When the Dream Team became a thing for Team USA, when they stopped using college players and used NBA players, they beat them first in 2002 at the FIBA championships. So they had that in their pocket. But then at the Olympics in Athens, it was thought, okay, the Dream Team's just going to just forget about that loss and just go on and win the gold. They didn't. Argentina beat them. That's an incredible story. And I'm writing that movie, and I'll cast myself as Manu Ginobili.
Will you be present day Manu looking back on this? Or well, you know what? No, you know what?
AI can help me de-age.
AI has come a long way, so I can see it. I can see it happening.
What about some movies that maybe some events that you think might get the good movie treatment?
So, if Hollywood, if you're listening, I want a do-over on Jesse Owens, please. Just do that right over. We'll pretend this 2016 movie did not happen. But I'll also say, something along those lines. I would love to see the story of the track and field sprinters, John Carlos and Tommy Smith. These were runners, Tommy Smith, that won the gold, and Carlos the bronze, the 1968 Summer Olympics. And they became famous, or infamous rather, for doing a Black Power salute during the Star-Spangled Banner. And they were vilified for this, vilified by the Olympics, vilified in the press. And I feel like Tommy Smith and John Carlos's story finds real resonance today if you think about that Ukrainian Olympian who was banned for wearing a helmet painted with dead Ukrainian athletes and coaches in Russia's war against the nation. So yeah, I mean, this is a political story. It is not a story of victory necessarily, but it's one that finds new relevance today, I feel.
All right, that's All Things Considered producer Marc Rivers. Marc, thanks a lot.
Thanks, it was a pleasure.
That's Up First Winter Games for Wednesday, February 18th. Don't forget to click subscribe, and you can donate to help keep our Olympics coverage going. Hit the blue button to give today. I'm A Martínez. We'll see you right back here Thursday and most days during the Olympic Games. Have a gold medal day.